So here's a picture, and I'm editing it with Luminar AI. And by default, it had me in the templates page, and I just went to the edit page. And so let's click on color first. Or wait, light actually. So let's change the profile to be camera standard or camera portrait. Let's do camera portrait. So there we go, that looks beautiful. And now when you start from a raw file, you actually are pretty far behind what would happen if you did something else. So anyway, I mean, then if you had used a JPEG in the camera, so you sort of have to go back to some of the camera settings to use them as your starting point. Now, let's see, the histogram looks pretty good. Maybe I'll just boost the shadows a bit. There we go. And then, actually maybe a little less. I like that sort of dark look. And I'm going to brighten the face later as well. Then, let's just see what this enhancing does now. Okay, that brings out unfortunately the lighting, the fill lighting is too much accented by this. So it looks very unprofessional, so I'm going to leave that back like that. The blend on site was already probably the best, close to the best. So let's see, details, let's do boost the small details a bit, I guess. Then let's go to the portrait settings. Let's add some light to her face. Now, if you add too much, that's obviously terrible. And notice it doesn't quite catch the top left edge of her face quite right. So let's just be very subtle. So go down to where you can just barely can't notice it anymore. So you can clearly notice it. Go down to where you can't, and then maybe divide that by 2. So about 25 or so. That's about perfect. And then the eyes. Let's do enhance them. Okay, let me zoom in some so you can see this better. So that's the way they are now. Let's maybe boost this up to like 35. And then let's do scan AI. Let's do maybe 20. No, you don't want to do too much, especially on a young person, because it can make their skin look very fake. Let's do some skin defect removal. Now, unfortunately, sometimes that can ruin somebody's freckles, which you don't want to have that happen. Now, I would like to get rid of the wrinkles. That's a special request. So, unfortunately, I'll probably have to do that in a separate program. But right now, this looks pretty good though. All right. Maybe let me do eye whitening a little bit, maybe. Let me try that. Okay, no, you don't want that. That's too much for sure. Maybe a little bit of dark circles removal. All right. So now let's go ahead and export this. And then I'll start recording again after that happens. Now I've opened the result of that in Perfectly Clear. So this is the result from the raw file edited with Luminar AI. Now Perfectly Clear is really cool and have some cool presets in it. So I'm going to do Auto 19B, that, and I'm going to add the face to it by clicking the control points in the eyes. So there we go. Now notice they shifted a bit. I don't know if you noticed that. I don't know why it does that, but as soon as I position them, and then the photo sharpens up and finishes loading. It shifts, and it shifted again. All right, so that looks nice. Let's zoom out and make sure we like everything. Okay, that looks really good. Now, I'd still like to do a little brighter on the top maybe, but I think that looks pretty decent. So save. And then once again, I'll pause recording. Well, this is too bad. This actually, so it happens way too often. Even when I'm editing just one photo like right now, perfectly clear, randomly, maybe about 1 in every 20 photos or 1 in every 30 photos, crashes like this. And it's absolutely horrible. The only way to get around it is to go down here and click force quit because it's not responding. And by the way, if you're working on, let's say, 10 or 20 photos at once, which is the only efficient way to edit them, and then you click save all when you're done, that makes it go like 5 times faster. It can take a day to edit your photos if you don't do it that way. Well, every time this crash happens, then you've lost the work that you've done on your entire group of photos. And it always seems like the crash happens at the very end, sometimes the very last photograph. That's happened to me many times. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to share the screen. So here we go. This has crashed. This is spinning. I guess I wasn't sharing the screen at all when I was talking earlier. And spinning for minutes. So let's go ahead and choose that option to force quit. And then last but not least, I'm going to work on this with Pixelmator Pro, which has some really cool, amazing things that you can do. I'm going to be eliminating these forehead wrinkles real quick. So the way I'm going to do that is use the healing brush and for the repair brush. And let me lower the size down to about that. And I'll bring this across this. Okay, that looks a little too wide. So let me undo that. And lower the brush size down even more. If you're doing a quick fix, that'd be enough, but I don't want to eliminate too much of your forehead. Otherwise it sort of smooths it out too much. Sometimes there's unwanted artifacts from doing this. You don't want this to be around. And let me lower down even more. This is a very precise type of repair. Sort of like surgery. And increase this up a bit. All right. So let me do this one first. Looks kind of sloppy. Lower the brush size down again a bit. Still not quite perfect. There we go. Now, let's do Command 0 to zoom out to a full image. Let's zoom in a bit more. Just take a look at it. Let me just move the image around. Okay, so this looks really nice. Just realized. Oh no. When I used the mouse tool, I accidentally moved the whole image, which is horrible. Okay, so let's go ahead and export this. Maybe I should make the no, I increased the exposure just a tiny bit. Maybe I should increase the black point a little bit too. No, that's a little too. So there we go. Oh, that's right back in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to leave the black point alone, and then I'm going to export this. Now, one thing that's absolutely horrible about these major programs, I can't believe how utterly ridiculous the people are who program them. But when you save the file, there is absolutely no way of saving it into the current folder. So I have to waste about another, probably doubles my working time at least. I have to have the folder where the picture is, which could be anywhere because I'm just browsing through these photos chronologically. And I have to drag that folder over there and then save it within that folder, like that. So it's totally ridiculous. So anyway, I'm about to have to do it again because I accidentally forgot to do export. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna say, call this one PP for for Pixelmator Pro. One thing I did forget to do was to do machine learning resolution super enhance or whatever, but I can do that though. So while that version is exporting, let me also show you what I normally do a lot. So a lot of times I'll first do MLD noise. There's not really any noise I can see in this picture, but it basically just helps reduce the file size is what I've found, and helps everything to be a little bit smoother without losing detail for the most part. And then I do Command Option U, that is ML Super Resolution, which takes a long time, so I'm going to pause the recording while I do that. And so the ML Super Resolution has just reached 100%. Now the problem is you can't really get something for nothing. So if you look in at the full size of this, it's not actually very high quality. It's kind of fake looking. However, it's a little tiny bit better than it was before. It's just slightly better. So what I think of it is it basically gets the most out of the picture, but supposedly this quality is 9 times higher than it was before, but you can tell that this is kind of blurry. So what I do is I bring the image size back down to 50% of itself in both dimensions, which almost reduces it to the same size that it was originally. And then at least most of the way back to the same size it was originally. And then I do it like that. And then I just export it from there. So I've already exported it into this folder before, so I'm going to just keep it in the same folder again. All right. Now, let's just take a quick look. So let's just look at the results. This is the Luminar AI file edited from the raw. This is the new additional edit from Perfectly Clear. This is the this is with the wrinkles removed. So look closely at the forehead and you can see this has the wrinkles. They're pretty much on. And then this is the increased resolution version. So let's just zoom in just to see if we can see any difference. You can usually tell the most difference. Whoops, sorry. You can usually tell the most difference on things like hair or fabric. So this is the everything is the same except for the super resolution. Okay, sorry. And now here's the super resolution one. Why? So I guess this one's a little sharper. This program is so slow, and it does not move to the same place or anything. Preview, whatever, it's not really a good application for comparing the images. Anyway, that's about all.